Hi guys, how's it going? We have been talking about creating the Linkdr app for so long. In this video, I want to showcase a small demonstration of how the interaction will work, and we'll see how that pans out when we try to make everything work together. Alright, so stick with me. This is going to be a sort of a tutorial video. Just see what you can do and try to replicate this on your end just to get started and used to how to create this interaction in Figma. So in one of the previous videos, we had seen that this was the style that we'd want to create. I will look at only for the browse jobs right now, and we'll get to the other ones probably in some time. But what we are going to be creating is a simple card. That card is the one that will be get swiped either left or right, and that is what we will see over here. So on this card, there is going to be some basic information. For now, for the purpose of this video, where we want to just see the interaction, we can take the very basic information. We don't want to put in a very specific item pieces over here. And similarly for the navigation bar on the bottom as well. We will just make sure that that navigation bar is there. It does not have to be operating, at least at this point. So we'll see how that all pans out. So I'll head to page 1, create a new frame, which will be basically the card that I will create for the jobs. So new frame. I'm going to be selecting a frame directly from the phone because that makes it life slightly easier. Let's call this job card, and instead of having it full length, I will decrease the size somewhat. Okay, so let's say we have certain assets over here. Just for the sake of some basic consistency, I will just bring in very simple items so that we can play around with. Going to be a lot of load on Epson that we will use, so that is what we'll stick with. So here is the title. Now I will add a small block underneath, which will have the basic job stats, job description, and 2 buttons over there. Okay, we will just make this smaller and create a new one over here, in which we will fit in lorem ipsum. There. Okay, so here we have a simple job card. Now let's say that let's just add simple text over here as well. Now this is for share, and the other one could probably be keep, right? So there are 2 different, let's just call it bookmark. So that's what we would want. Here is maybe just a little bit of simple alignment issues over here. Everything looks fine. So this is the job card that we have created, and okay, once this is done, now the next thing that I would want is probably another variation of the same thing, but now this time this will going to be a slightly different card. So what I can do is get in another logo, this time for JP Morgan, let's say, and this is the image that I would want. Here is the image. Here we go. There is now another card that has been generated, and let's create a third one because that's going to become some sort of a understanding for us for how this will come in. We want the brand fetch. So let's say Uber this time. Okay, so we have now 3 different cards. I can change the text somewhat so that it we might be able to verify this. So let's see auto generate for this one as well. Okay, text somewhat might look different, but that's okay. That's not what we were going for over here. So once this has been generated, now what I would want is to create a new frame. And in this frame, this is going to be an iPhone Plus frame. And let's create a simple navigation bar before moving forward. And again, navigation bar is going to be just a simple rectangle that I will place over here. I don't have to be all specific right now. And yeah, I think that this looks good. Maybe just change the color somewhat and assume that this is where the navigation icons would be. Actually, we can probably just add a couple of navigation icons over here. And this could go in over here. These become just tidy up. Maybe an auto layout would work better if I just bring this Shift A over here and I can just decrease the amount of spacing between this, keep this in the center of the frame. Okay, so there we have a navigation bar as well. Now what I would want to do is move from the first job card. So let's just call this job card number 1. Then we have this one, number 2 and number 3. Okay, so now once this is done, what I would want is the first job card to be present over here. So I'll create a copy of this, duplicate of this one, and this fits in nicely over here. All in all, great. Yes, so this is how it looks like. Maybe I can just give it some sort of a shadow so it looks somewhat different over here. A drop shadow looks good. Maybe we can also put in a slightly different color over here. So instead of putting this right over here, for all of these job cards, let's just give it a slightly different tint of color. Maybe something like this. And if I can make all of these as different components, I'd be able to come back to these. So select all of them. The first one is going to be a component. There we have 3 different job cards. All of this, just create a component set. Now these are the multiple components. Let's take the first one over here. This is the first variation that we do have. Now here is my animation place. So from here I can move either to the left or towards the right side. What I would want to do is probably show some sort of an indication whether they're swiping in the right direction. So we'll create a new variation, a new overlay on top of this that would look like a swipe indicator, right? So this is an 846 by 428. So let's create a new frame. Now this is supposed to be, so here is my frame, 428 by 846. Let's call this 428 by 846. Okay, great. Now over here, the first one would probably be a rectangle, and I can draw over here, fit it according to the correct size, make it somewhat smaller, and create the other one over here, right? So if this one is supposed to be probably like a green color, so we can set it something like this and change the orientation over here. This one is supposed to be 0. Okay, so this is going to be swipe right, swipe left, which is, if you are selecting, actually this should be the other way around. This should be red, so that we know that this is done. And similarly, we'll create this one on the greener tint. So So fill, something like this. Change the tone. The top one is going to be 0% opacity, and the other one is going to be somewhat green in color, or probably maybe a better blue. Now I'm not sticking to the style guys that we had created for now, because I just want to get done with this so we can see how these things work. And all of these are supposed to be part of the frame. This one is going to be called the swipe state. Over here there are two different rectangles. Okay, swipe state by itself should not have any fill. Great. Now this would be a replica that we will create on top of this. Now what I'm doing is basically on the component there should be something for the swipe state frame itself. So if I want to hide one of those, I will probably choose that. And similarly this will get copied to the other ones also. Great. So here we have created the component. Now at least at this point in time I do not want the swipe state to be visible, so I can turn it all on off. Now over here this is the second frame on which we are going to be moving forward. Let's change the component over here. Now card 2 is the one that we should see over here. Now the thing is, Figma will take in very specific frames as how it's moving, right? So let me just show you how this thing will ultimately operate. So when I'm moving from the first card to the second card, there should be a card that comes up, and the top one could be swipe left or swipe right. So there are two different scenarios. So I can have this being swiped right, or I can have this being swiped left. But the thing is, in both of these cases, I would want the job card over here as well. So here I have the first component. I would want the other component over here as well, which is job card 1. I will remove the clip content settings from both of these frames. Now what happens? Now with component number 4, which is Microsoft, I'd want it to move somewhere on the side, still inside the frame though. Tilt it by, let's say, about 10 degrees and move it entirely outside. Okay, so this is what we have done. We've just made sure that this component is outside over here, and let's move it somewhat 20 pixels, 30 pixels over here. Now over here as well, I would want this, because it's being swiped on the left side, I would want just the red to be visible. So I can, in the swipe state, turn off the rectangle 6. Over here I do not want any of them to be visible, so I can turn it entirely off. Okay. Now similarly on this one, now there is component 3 and I would want component 4. Component 4 should have the job card 1, and this moves over here. Move it by a specific amount over there, then connects over here, and we will then move it about 30 pixels towards the right side. Now very similar to what we had done, no swipe state for this one. This one is supposed to be swipe state with the blue color, because we've already turned off the red one there. Okay, so what is happening? I will have the interaction move from here to this particular frame, and let's just check whether this component is part of this. No, it's not. I would want this to be part together. Let's just call this start. Let's just call this L1 left and L1 right. So this is the level 1 where I would want these components to work together. Component number 4, which is the one on top, should remain on top over here as well. And similarly, right over here, I can see that component number 4 is on top. Now over here as well, I will create another variation, another duplicate of this one. Component 3, the one which is lower, should have job card 2. And we will scale it somewhat so that we can have it look slightly smaller. Okay, that will not be visible unless we swipe anywhere from it. Now, okay, so this is the first bit that is done. Let's create a simple interaction and see if this works perfectly. So from here, Now this is the job card. I would want the component to be the one that gets dragged. So where we're dragging, navigate to, let's say, on left, and we can create another one in which again we are dragging and navigate to, this time, the right side. Great. Okay, so what is happening? This job card is the one that gets dragged either towards the left side or the right side, and accordingly we will land on one of these. Let's see if that works. So here I have the card. I can see the card has boundary over here. Now this I can swipe right or I can swipe left. Now let's try doing that again. Great. Okay. I don't see the color being visible, at least at this point in time. So maybe there is something wrong that we are doing and we want to fix that. Now what I want to show you is what is happening when the card is moving towards the right side. That is when the color is appearing. But what is happening is instead of it appearing on the left side, so where I can see it between the screen, it's appearing on the right side where we are unable to see what is exactly happening. So what I'd rather do is probably change or flip the colors in both of these cases. So in swipe state, I would flip the color over here, and similarly over here as well, let's flip the colors. And because we are swiping on the other direction, so maybe we can just change the swipe state colors in the components over here as well. So we have rectangle 6. Similarly, rectangle 6 over here. Go back to design, change the color, and instead of blue, make it red. And now for the other one, select all of these three, change the color. Instead of blue, instead of red, we'd probably want it blue. Okay, there we go. Looks somewhat better. Now let's see if the prototype works. There we go. Isn't that nice? So we can see that color now because it is visible within the frame. And let's do that one more time on the left side. Yeah, that works. So what we have done is we just created a simple frame. Now to take it further from here, I would want to create another replica of this frame, and this time what I would bring it is without this particular setup, and let's just call this L1 center. Now what needs to happen is from both of these frames, what I would want is an immediate movement towards after delay of a very short time. So let's say just about 100 frames, and navigate to L1 center. So what happens now? I do not have anything else which is on the cards, so it becomes slightly easier for us to manage. Now we had created 3 different variations, and let's see what happens right after this. So once we have created L1 center, actually let's just move this over here so it's easier for us to maintain. Now L1 center, just like this one, should also have another card, and let's create component 4. The component 4 should have slightly smaller size. The one that should be the one that goes below, and this should have job card number 3 now. Now where we have a new card, and let's just duplicate all of these from here all the way till here. This one is supposed to be L2 left, there it is L2 right, and this is going to be L2 center. Now this time this card and this card is going to be job card number 2 because that's the one that we have swiped, and this card over here, all of these 3 different cards should be job card number 3. Okay, all of this makes sense. Interaction wise, we know that there's nothing very specific happening right now. So this card should move to this frame on drag and navigate to L2 right. All of this is good. Similarly, this card should move to L2 left on drag. So there we have something just like that. Now let's see whether this works. Again, start from here, swipe. There is something that just went wrong over there. This gets swiped easily. This gets swiped right on both sides. Now from here, we are on this one, we can see that there is a small boundary that appears over here. You can see currently that you can see a small boundary over here that indicates which is the frame that we are looking at. So we move there, we move to this card, and now from this one there is something that is happening incorrectly. So on drag, navigate to L2 left, looks right. Oh, now I know. What has happened is you have changed the order of the cards, right? So component number 4 is the one that is going there, and from there I can just see that this is job card number 3. Component number 3 is job card number 2. Now on interaction, this is interaction which is happening on the component number 3 itself. On the right side we see this coming up, and on the right frame, L2 right, we see that component number 4 is on top, which seems to be correct. So here we have L2 right, L1 right is okay, we don't have to do anything about that. So we have component number 4 and number 3 over here. Number 3 is the one in the center, which is okay, and then we have into center, instant. Okay, this is good. Four is the one that moves outside, L1 center, mid 3 is the one that moves outside. So this should become number 3. This becomes number 4. So here we are doing a cursory check. What I'm doing is doing a name check on all of these different cards. The first one is supposed to be number 4, which has job card number 1. So let's just rename it number 1. Then we have number 2. Okay, sounds good. So here we are at start. Now on the left side, we know that this is number 2. So let's just stick that over here, and number 1 right over here. Similarly on this side, we have this, and then we have this over here. All of this looks good. Now in the center, we know that now this one is number 2, and the card underneath, which is job card number 3, is supposed to be number 3. Now once we move from there, we'll move to L2, either we'll move to left, and where we will see number 2 being swiped on the side and number 3 appearing over here. And similarly on the right side, we have number 2 on outside and number 3 in the center. And here in the center, we know that this one is now number 3, and the next one that I would want over here is job card number 1, because if we are going back again. So here we go to number 1. Now once we have made sure that all of the naming structure is correct, let's see if this works. So here we have the Microsoft card being moved on the right side, works right. On the left side, works correctly. So let's move it on the other side. And now we have the next card being moved on the left side or the right side. All of this is good. Now here we are on the third card, which we are in the center, and we do not have any interactions from there. So maybe we can just navigate from here back to another variation and take it back to the start. So let's create another variation of this one. And now this time, the L2 left should end up having the Microsoft one as the final card. So here we are at L3 left. This one is supposed to be L3 center, and we should have L3 on the right. So here this number is supposed to be job card number 3, because that is the one that we have swiped. Similarly for this one, job card number 3, let's just make sure that the naming is correct, because that creates problems. Now this one is supposed to be number 1 again, and that is why we will have this and this both as number 1. There, and this is number 1, this is good. Number 3, just making sure everything is correct. Don't have anything to do with L2. Let's just make sure that the placement is correct for all of us as well. So we have start, L1 left, L1 right, and then L2 left, L2 center, and L2 right. Then we have left, center, and right. Okay, great. So on the right one, we have number 3, which is on the outside, number 1, which is in the center. Perfect. On the L3 center, we should have now the card number 1 over here, and which will essentially be this particular card. So we can actually eliminate L3 center, and we can have both of these move to, after delay of let's say 100 frames, move to start. There it is, there it is. There we go. So L3 right, just verifying number 3, number 1, and L2 left, number, this should be number 3. Okay, this is named number 3, and this one should be named number 1. Okay, great. And just taking in L2 center, do we have this job card number 1? Perfect, yes. Everything looks great. Here is our flow, and let's see how it looks in the prototype. Every time on the left and right side this happens. Now this is what we want over here as well. L3 center should go on drag to this side, and similarly on this side on drag as well. Okay, nothing too complicated, everything looks good. We see an arrow which is missing, but that's okay because all of that is visible. Now let's start from over here, and here we go towards the left side. Now from here to the right side, then again towards the left side. Probably just play around with this till we get used to the fact that how cool this is. We've just been able to make a very simple app in terms of showcasing how multiple things can work together, just doing a swiping action to apply or reject for jobs. Now in the upcoming set of videos, we'll make sure that everything is more cohesive in terms of design, in terms of style guide, and all of the other different things work as well. So here it is, the basic interaction for how you can do a swiping card sort of interaction to make sure that your Linkdr app works as well. So have you tried this out? If not yet, go back, get to Figma and start applying all of this. And if you have, and you have faced any problems, put it back in the comments. I will be able to help you out because I've been able to crack this because of so many different times that I've done this. Anyway, make sure that you like this video, share this with somebody who you think you can benefit from this, and subscribe to Design Up channel. I will see you in the upcoming video.